So hey everybody, John Gibson. For those of you who don't know me, I am the SVP of TPO sales for Flagstar, so all things third-party originated. Kind of falls in my wheelhouse. I'm excited to have Paul with us today. So Paul, I'll let you kind of introduce yourself and what you do.
Thanks, John. My name is, as John was saying, Paul Gigliotti. I'm currently acting as Chief Operating Officer at Pinnacle Home Loans, a retail mortgage company, primarily located on the West Coast. I really am passionate about innovation in our industry and about being that leader that comes to the table with the concept and idea and vision of ensuring the success of every single one of our team members. That's my entire purpose at work, and dedication and passion to our industry. And I'm really looking forward to chatting with you, John, and sharing with our audience our relationship and how it's been beneficial to both of us.
Yeah, and hey, I'm glad to be interacting with you. It's been a while. We haven't seen ourselves in person. I think it's been like 4 years, but we go back a lot longer from some of the relationships that we've partnered with in the past and currently. So I'm glad you're here. I'm looking forward to having a conversation. So you mentioned a couple things right there in the beginning, right? And one of the things I wanted to talk about is, from your perspective, obviously, 2020 was a crazy year, in so many regards, right? From a volume perspective, capacity, just the industry in general. And then let's face it, what homeowners and borrowers were going through in general, living through what we just lived through for the last year. What's important to you? Like, how do you maintain your competitive advantage in the industry, in your marketplace, in your space? How do you do that?
That's a really good question. And I think it's a great question for all industries, but because of what our industry is going through right now, I feel like it's such an important question, and we keep it top of mind. Our competitive edge is not price. It's not product. It's something that's more tangible, and it really is a simple concept. It's to provide an authentic consumer journey. So, if we take that statement, let's take it and digest it a little bit. When you have an authentic consumer journey, this not only creates the very best and highest level of service to our customers, but also to our referral partners. Just as important, or maybe even slightly more important, also to our team members. So it creates this almost like this euphoria, a very happy, collaborative, and productive work environment. If we concentrate on that being our competitive edge or our competitive advantage, and we take that three-dimensional approach and apply it in every step of a file flow from start to finish, the consumer is going to feel that energy. In their experience, they're going to feel that what I had was real, what I had was authentic. And then everybody else involved in the transaction is also going to feel, what the consumer's experience is, right? So it's really great. And that's why I said in the very beginning, it's a simple concept, but it's something a lot of us lose track of. And I touched on this in the opening, when I introduced myself. If we concentrate on the success of our individual team members, on the success of our solution providers, our referral partners, and our consumers, that's a huge competitive advantage. And I really think it makes us stick out.
Yeah, I would agree with you, Paul. And like I said, you and I have known each other for quite some time now, and I've been at Flagstar going on 18 months. It is one of the things that has always struck me about you and your organization is how you look at it from every facet, right? Like, there's so many touch points within that transaction for the consumer. One of it being the relationship between you and in this case, Flagstar or whoever else you're doing business.
Right.
And I think where you guys excel, what I've seen over time, is the value in that partnership. A lot of companies and individuals like you, not you, but companies like you, look at it as a one-sided relationship, right? Where they're, they don't really view what the lender does as an integral part to it, other than get the loan closed, meet my deadlines, do this, do this, do this. And that's the one thing that's always struck me about you and your organization, is that you do really look at it. There's so many different partners along the way. And if we're all in an alignment and there's synergy between everybody, the overall experience for everybody is just that much heightened and greater. And it leads to more referrals. It leads to us wanting to do things with you from a strategy perspective. So I've always appreciated it about you guys.
Thank you. And that's why I was so excited to have this meeting with you and your team at Flagstar, because it's 100% true. You're aligned with that. Flagstar's aligned with that concept as a core value. And John, at the end of the day, we all have to layer, and we've all heard this, right? We all have to lay our head down and think, okay, today was a good, productive day. Today was a good day. I have good feelings all over me about today. And how you get that as leaders, how I get that is, again, going back to ensuring the success of our team. And so if we ensure the success of our team, it trickles down, or it trickles through, and our team ensures the success of our solution providers. And if we're all doing that, we're ensuring the success of what the consumer feels. And I tell you, that competitive advantage, that competitive edge, I firmly believe will outweigh a competitive edge of pricing, a competitive edge of multiple products, because the competitive edge of pricing in multiple products it's not real. It's not tangible. It's almost like you could put a word on it. It's almost shallow, right? And from where I sit, and I might be the odd man out, but service can override price. Service can, if it's true valued service. And that's what we're all in this for, right, John? We're in this. We don't want a consumer for one time.
Correct.
You don't want one loan from Pinnacle. We're about creating relationships forever. We all know, we've all looked at data, and we all know to bring in a new client is so much more costly than to retain that client. And so if that's how we're looking at this, go back to grassroots and really look at that consumer journey in that approach of that three-dimensional function, where if we're going to try to concentrate on making them happy, let's just make everybody happy.
Right. I hear you. No, those are all great points. And like, I think we're in alignment there, right? As you look around the kind of the ecosystem, as I like to call it, right? The mortgage ecosystem, there has to be that alignment and partnership. And I think a lot of times people miss out on that. And that's certainly one of the things, I know of you, and it's been ingrained in your DNA of how you function. And obviously, bringing that to Pinnacle, where, is something that we experience as a partner on the other end with you. So we certainly appreciate it. Hey, you mentioned a couple times in there about service, right? And I think that may mean different things to different people. So from your perspective, how do you maintain that level or high level degree of service for your customers?
I'm glad you asked this question right now, because it goes back to what we were just talking about, and I'll elaborate on it. I'll give you a little analogy. It's about alignment, right? It's about alignment with everybody that's involved in the transaction. We simply make sure that we align ourselves with team members. So our internal team, solution providers, AMCs, notaries, title companies, takeout investors, even down to warehouse facilities, and the technology that we pick for our tech stack. We ensure that we align ourselves with everybody that marches to the same beat. Everyone I have a conversation with, whether it's in an interview or it's, to a potential new investor, because we don't have many, because we use Flagstar so much. And we don't need many others.
Right.
But we talk about, I start every conversation off with, this is where we are. This is our growth plan. This is who we are. How does that fit with you? How does that align with you? Are you going to be there? Are you moving with us? have you been through it, and you can support us in growing through what our trajectory or our plan is. You know, does it make sense for you? And oftentimes, you know, there's been solution providers that will look at us and simply say you're too small. Tech solution providers, and I love hearing that, because it's true. You don't want to take a square and put it into a round hole. You know,
Right.
it won't work. Um, you know, it's very much when I think about this concept, and I almost have this visual when I go through interviewing solution providers and potential new team members. I imagine myself, so imagine, if you will, yourself
Yeah.
in a concert hall, like this amazing conference hall, and you're with your favorite 10 people. Your favorite 10 are sitting with you front row, and in front of you is the entire New York Symphony, and it's just the 10 of you. And all of a sudden, the horn section starts playing. And again, they're just playing for you. You know, they're playing to you guys, right? And then the string section jumps in, and the drums come in, and the piano comes in, and the flute, and so on and so on. And all of a sudden, the symphony is playing together, and they're creating the symphony at that point in time. When everyone's playing together, you get chills, and it's alignment. You feel that alignment, you feel that energy. And that's what I strive, that's magic. And that's what I strive for as a leader. And so that creates that experience for you, and then therefore for the customer. To me, that's customer service, right? Because if you're sitting back looking for that magic and that alignment, and that's how you train your team, and that's how you talk to your solution providers, and if they're in alignment with it, that's just plainly what you're going to get.
Well, it's interesting. I love the analogy, right, of the symphony and how you're sitting there and it's just you. Because I think that's, in a lot of times when you talk about that alignment, right? I love that word, right? The synergy, the alignment.
Mhm.
When you talk about that, I think that's something that, like, from a lender's perspective, we strive to have that with our business partners, right? We want that alignment. We want to know what your strategy is so that we can help you, you know, fulfill that strategy and grow. And if that alignment's there, then it's a two-way street and it's working well, right? Because think about it from our perspective, right? If I'm aligned with you and we're all talking the same talk and we're all rowing in the same direction, so to speak, it's making the process, the overall manufacturing process, more efficient for you. So there's downstream impacts there, right? To your referral sources, to your borrowers. But then to us on the other end of it, as the lender on the transaction, right? So in this case, obviously from a non-delegate perspective, being the investor on the side of this, on this side of the ledger, it allows us to get really creative and just do more things that align with what that vision is. So I love that alignment and the analogy from a standpoint of what does that look like from every aspect.
Yeah, yeah. Um, and that's that, you know, again, it goes back to, you have that ability to then become creative, and then you have that ability to you know, you could even take it a step further, and with that creativity, that can also allow for agility. And so that agility is great for years like 2020,
Right.
right? When you, oh
Right.
my gosh, you have a pandemic, oh my gosh, rates are lower than they've ever been,
Ever.
oh my gosh, you have all these forest fires, right? So you have to be agile through all of that. And again, and at times like that, I mean, gosh, I don't know how many emails I wrote to our account executive, Ann Hines, about, okay, so are you going to purchase this file based on the fire zone? You know, what are the layovers again for VVOEs? And every step of the way, you were there supporting us to ensure that we were there supporting our customer.
Yep. Well, and I think that's the true definition of a partnership, right? In my opinion. And again, like I said earlier, I think sometimes people view it as one-sided, and that to me is where, you know, as a relationship goes, it doesn't grow, it doesn't prosper, it doesn't allow you to be agile or nimble, right? And I think when both are rowing in that same direction, it allows for a lot of really, like, intelligent decisions to be made, common sense decisions to be made. and it allows to support, somebody like a Pinnacle and you from a growth, from a business perspective, which is something I think, we all try to strive to do.
Yeah, yeah. It's about it turns it into being about relationships when you have that lens, when you have that focus, then about units and numbers and volumes. Don't get me wrong. I understand, I oversee our accounting department. I understand it's about what the profitability is and
Sure.
what went into that profitability. But if you put that second and you put the relationships first and you look at that alignment piece, I honestly feel no and have full expectation in any industry, the numbers, the volume, the profitability will come into alignment, not to use that word again, but it'll fall after.
Right. No, that's a great wrap up to that. I think that's perfect, right? Because if you put the right things ahead, I think in a lot of instances, some of the other things that you worry about and you stay up at night, they kind of take care of themselves, right?
Yeah.
To the point of what you're making.
Yeah.
So in regards to what we've talked about so far, if you were looking at Flagstar, right, as your business partner, like we are, how would you say, we align with, kind of your thought process around service, like you just described? How do you think Flagstar compares in that arena?
I honestly believe that the entire team at Flagstar, everyone from internal operations to sales support, lock desk, leadership, care about our consumer as if it's Flagstar's customer. So it really goes back to that consumer journey, if you will. I know the team at Flagstar cares about our success. And I know that Flagstar understands that if we're successful, Flagstar is successful. I know that if I could give specific after specific, but I know that communication is fluid. I know it flows. I know that if there's outreach to someone at Flagstar and there's not the answer is unknown, there's still an immediate response with we're researching. And if there's, and the next day, if you're still researching, we're still researching, but we took this additional step. The lines of communication are there, and I give you props for that because you're a big company and you've got multiple channels, but it doesn't feel like that. It doesn't feel like when we're communicating, when there's an issue, when there's a question, it doesn't feel like you're too small or we're too busy, and that's really important again because that's what we provide, our consumer, right? At the bottom of every Pinnacle, at the bottom of every goodbye letter or first payment to Pinnacle is my name and my cell phone number. And I can't tell you how many times somebody will call me on a weekend and they'll ask who I am and I tell them who I am and they're like, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to call you. And my response is, how can I help you?
Right.
I'm at a baseball game. I'll give you a call back in 20 minutes, and I really feel like that's the level of service we get with Flagstar. Now, don't be nervous. I'm not going to call you this weekend, John, with a an exception, but that's what it feels like. And that's really important. That level of service, it's everything. And I think especially in our industry, because it's our industry is emotionally charged with the product or service that's provided, right? We all know that. It's not, you're not talking about clothing, you're not talking about a car, you're talking about someone's home, and you're talking about a lot of money and what's on the line if we're late with close of escrow or we miss the close of escrow or whatever the case may be. There's a lot of emotion in that. So to know that service is there for us so we can pass it on to our consumer makes all the difference in the world.
Well, it's interesting. You said a couple of things there that I think are just true in our DNA at Flagstar, right? I think we look at every business partner and every transaction as if it was ours, right? Like, so how would we want to be treated? How would we want this to go for, if it were our transaction or our, siblings, parents, friends, right? So
Right.
I think it's rooted in this company's DNA. Obviously, been in the mortgage business for going on 32 years. I like to tell everybody we're a mortgage company that just happens to be a bank, right? Like at the end of the day, I really believe that. And look, I think it starts, first and foremost with our account executives, right? I know you have one of our best in Ann, and they understand, like, to me, I think our A's look at it as like they're the LO on the loan, right? And at the end of the day, how should we provide that type of level of service communication? And then it goes through the organization, right? From an underwriting perspective, post closing, you name it. So yeah, I think that's just wired in who we are and how we view it. So
Yeah,
glad to see you're feeling that same experience.
yeah, 100%.
So I'm going to ask you this question, and you kind of touched on it a little bit there in talking about kind of how we align with the service levels. But could you dig a little deeper, just from a standpoint on, like, when you're dealing with Flagstar and the interactions that you have with the team members, even if it's somebody you might not normally deal with on a day in and day out basis? How does that compare for you as far as kind of what we talked about and what expectations you need from that synergy or alignment?
Yeah, it's I like that you use that phrase, that concept. It's in your DNA. It's your culture. It's your environment. Regardless of your capacity, the situations, time of month, or time of day, there's always a reply to a question or concern. We, or myself, no one in our company ever feels that they're ever left in the dark. And again, I stated this, that you're a large company, and that could be very easy. It could be very easy for Flagstar to, or for Flagstar's the size that you are, it would be very easy for a customer to feel like they're a ticket or they're a number. um, and that's not your culture. You have had the ability to maintain a very hands-on, high level of engagement with support and personal touch. And, honestly, when we first opened up and I talked about, who I am and my passions, I innovation is my passion. And to me, Flagstar has the strongest signs of being a thoughtful innovator. Because of that hands-on, high level of engagement with your growth and where you are, that means that someone's in the background constantly innovating process and procedure so that your company moves with expectation from our consumer. And I say our because you're servicing our clients.
Correct. Yep.
What their expectation is as a consumer and what the demands are in current market conditions, whether that's volatility, high units, a pandemic, whatever the case may be. You are constantly there. So to me, that's your thoughtful, intelligent innovator. Flagstar's constantly changing and bettering those process and procedures so that we can provide that to our consumer. And it goes back to your environment. I was doing, involved in a lot of different, outreach programs and committees and boards in our industry. And again, it goes back to who Flagstar is, your culture. A great example of that is the dedication that Flagstar has to diversity, equity, and inclusion in our industry, almost larger than any other lender in our industry. I've been on many committee calls with Mary, and we've gone through what Flagstar is doing for diversity and inclusion on an educational level for internally for your company. And so you just take a look at just that one small example outside the realm of manufacturing alone.
Right.
And that says a lot about your culture. That says a lot about your leadership, that you have so much passion to drive for growth and learning from a deep-rooted, caring, fundamental foundation. So if that's who you are as a company, obviously the service that I get, the business that you're in, manufacturing alone,
Right.
it's going to be parallel from that environment. Does that make sense?
It does. And look, I would even take it a step further as I look at it from my lens at Flagstar, looking at one of our valued business partners, Pinnacle, as the organization. You talk about some of those things, right? Like procedural changes and interaction. Well, guess what? That's where I think what I've seen and what I continue to see is where we excel, which is we listen to our business partners, right? Like a lot of people say they do, but at the end of the day, I think the proof is kind of in the pudding, to use that analogy, right? Like when you're giving us feedback on a process, a procedure, and then we implement that change, and then it makes it even more efficient for you. And again, I hate to keep using that word, but you've used it and I like it, which is that alignment for all people in the transaction. I think that's one of the things that we value is the true partnership and the feedback that we get from a Paul, right, at
Right.
Pinnacle. Like he's one of our best clients. They're one of our best business partners. And if they're raising their hand saying, hey, you know what if we did it this way? Or what if we just changed this process and did it like this? I mean, that's something we internalize and go through. So I would turn the lens around and say, like, for lenders like yourself and business partners, we love hearing that feedback from you because it helps us continue to evolve.
Yeah, it's important, and I can't stress, how it runs through, and not just at my level. I mean, if you were to have this same conversation with one of our underwriters or one of our processors or one of our loan officers, I'll throw out an 85 to 90% ratio of them would have the same response to that question in regards to Flagstar. And you don't hear it from all of our investors, or from, you wouldn't have that same response from all of our investors or solution providers. So it's something that's working. And it goes back to it's working, and it's from that value-based, it's a value-based culture. And it's that feel good thing that we were talking about at the beginning, right?
Yeah.
Which is nice.
So I've been waiting to ask you this question because I would be very interested in your feedback on this, right? So one of the things I think at Flagstar, with it being in our DNA, mortgage for over 30 plus years, is I think we've helped play a role with inside a lot of organizations and their growth. And that may be in many different formats, right? You could be a broker that grows into a non-del client. You could be a non-del client that's going into delegated or bulk. You could be a broker moving to non-del and we're helping you grow into that. And then there's like, the other things, like we provide warehousing facilities and things like that. So over the time that you've been doing business with Flagstar, what's kind of your impression on the guidance in regards to how we've helped in whatever format kind of help grow a business?
Hands-on, it's about growth. And it's funny because you almost hit every aspect of how Pinnacle has moved through, and where we're going and how Flagstar's provide guidance. I'll tell a really quick story about a complete sidebar conversation I was having with our account executive, Anne. It might have even been after hours, like driving home. And it was just how was your day? Oh man, I went through this and that. How was your day? Oh, it was good. Literally, I think I said, I did most of what was on my to-do list, but, I'm kind of searching for, we need more warehousing capacity as we move into delegation. We want to kind of move away from this one particular one. We need to start dipping into, a warehouse facility that gives us more flexibility and is letting go of the reins. And, she said, well, let's talk about Flagstar's warehouse facility. And, she listened to my bullets, what I needed.
Yeah.
Literally the next morning, there was a reply to those bullets. Check out your calendar. Let's meet with person X, person Y, go through if we can support you. Those were immediately scheduled. And I'm not kidding you. I'm not just saying this because I have a feeling Anne's going to listen to this. He was on it more than I was in regards to, was the application completed? How long for the approval? What is needed? And, she was literally working for us and was literally working for Pinnacle to get the line closed, or to get the application completed and the line open, right?
Right.
And then we started to move into, okay, well, and then she took from that conversation. So you said you wanted to move delegated. Let's start talking about what we need to do to bring you into delegation. And what are those steps? And we want to be your first investor because we want to ensure your growth. And it was just mind blowing to me. She was like 2 steps ahead of, and Flagstar was right there with us. You know, we were talking to, gosh, I think one day I had 3 different meetings about next steps to becoming delegated.
Right.
And it was amazing because it was, you know, part of it was helping ensure that I was being held accountable for next steps, but to have a solution provider such as Flagstar with us with that much drive and commitment to our growth, it's almost like Anne knew this was going to be a question and this podcast was going to occur. I mean, it was so surreal that, you know, the amount of support I was getting with it or for those movements. So the guidance has been amazing. It's really helped our team understand what it means to be delegated. It's really helped us, some of our team members, understand what it means to have a warehouse facility that, you know, is in conjunction with one of our takeout investors. So it's been a huge level up and lift at Pinnacle.
Yeah, it's interesting. You said some things in there I think that ring true, right? And I think it's that value add versus just, okay, here's a traditional relationship. Hey, you looking to do this? Hey, we provide warehouse facility capacity.
Yeah.
We can put you in contact. I think one of the things our AEs pride themselves on is just that, right? Like, I always tell AEs they're self-employed, right? It's just a question of who their backing is, whether they're at Flagstar or where they hang their hat. And their true, partnerships are with people like you and Pinnacle, right?
Mhm.
So I think we look at it, and it sounds like, at least from your perspective, you've experienced this. We look at it much as an advisor versus it's an account executive, right? What are your goals? What are your vision, right? How can we align with that? How can we help you reach those goals? And in some cases, we might help you get there sooner than you thought, right? Because we're going to kind of
Totally.
drive and help you move to that point. So it was good to hear you say that, because I think we pride ourselves in, like I said earlier, right? Longevity of doing it. Like we help clients reach their goals, and I'm glad to hear that you've experienced that as well.
100%. And, you know, I'll tell you, just as a sidebar, throughout the entire, you know, throughout those um, growth patterns, or the, you know, throughout the, you know, taking that journey, if you will, that experience and moving into opening up a warehouse facility with Flagstar, you know, getting prepared for delegation, at no point in time was there even ever a mention of, you know, how does this affect Flagstar, right? How does this affect, you know, and I still honestly don't even know if this puts us in a different business channel, so to speak, or, you know, it was just really solely, authentically for us, for Pinnacle, to mirror our growth goals.
Yep, that's great to hear. So I have two more questions for you. And the next one, I just wanted to ask you around kind of Flagstar's technology. How would you characterize it? How do you view it? I know we've spent a lot of time getting feedback from clients. We've put a heavy investment in it over the last couple of years, but I'd
Mhm.
love to get your opinion on how you view it, or how you kind of characterize the technology.
You know, I'm so glad you asked that question. That's a great question. I am, you know, I'm kind of a geek with technology in our industry. I've hosted now twice the Mortgage Innovators Conference, which is all focused around technology. And I have a background in technology at Cisco Systems. So I have a lot of passion for what technology can bring to, you know, an individual company and industry. Um, to me, technology is a tool in innovation. And it's meant, or should be used, to only deepen relationships. Um, Usable technology allows for more of the human to human interaction and the connection, and it provides support to yes or no questions. It provides analysis to data that is factual, and it provides, you know, partial workflow, right? But it doesn't provide experience, and it doesn't provide engagement. It gives the ability to drive great experience and human interaction and touch. And your portal hits it on the head. Your portal is that perfect balance between too much and too little. So whoever designed it, props. It gives the, can we do this? Can we do that? Yes and no, or yes or no. Here's our analysis. And that's all we do. Obviously store documents and things of that nature,
Sure.
but it doesn't take away from, there are a lot of your competitors or a lot of other TPO or takeout investors where it all goes through the portal to a point where the need for an account executive is, less. And I feel that, and I don't do business with those people because that's not how I treat my consumer, right?
Right.
That's not our business model. There's nothing wrong with it. We all know there are different business models out there. So your technology is just robust enough to provide, that aligns with, my passions of the purpose of technology. And I would have to assume it's Flagstar's passions and the purpose and the foundation for how the technology was developed.
Yeah, I mean, you hit it on the head, and it's like I said, I had two questions for you. This was one of them, and I was really interested in getting your opinion because in knowing you and getting to know you, I know that background about you. You're one of the people that when I do see you, and hopefully that'll be again sometime soon in the very near future as we get out of this situation that we've been in for last year, I was very interested in getting your thoughts on that because knowing your background and knowing your passion for it, and not only your passion for it, but I like how you kind of look at the role of technology, right? And how that is interjected into the process, but it doesn't replace certain things. But yeah, you're definitely somebody I wanted to kind of pick your brain on that because like I said, I know your background and I was interested to see what you had to say there.
Yeah. So job well done. It plays right.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
So, hey, I got one more question for you, and then we can kind of wrap it up and you can throw anything out there that you want to kind of wrap up. But as we go through those questions, right, that we just talked about from, competitive edge, service, how the alignment with Flagstar as a business partner aligns with those goals, your interactions with us, I think maybe the guidance that we talked about and kind of how there's that as far as the relationship goes. And then obviously the technology piece. I got to ask you this one last question. How does that help you from what I will call a recruiting perspective when you're talking to potential new hires coming to Pinnacle? And does it play a part in retention for you of employees as you're aligning with a business partner like Flagstar?
I'll touch on the retention first because
Yeah,
that's most important. I mean, they go hand in hand, right? So,
absolutely.
it's kind of, I'll give an analogy because I really look at home. I really look at like a whole self approach at work and at home. And I look at integration. I don't believe in home work-life balance. I very much believe in you are who you are at home and you're that same person at work. If there's an issue at work, it spills over to home and vice versa. And so if you have this concept of home work integration and a whole self approach, then you get your 100%. And so my response to you is, how does it support retention? Is it's simply part of our foundation. The partnership that we have with Flagstar and some of our, other widely used takeout investors in our warehouse facilities and our AMCs and whatever the case may be, it's our foundation. It's who we are. It's kind of like at home when you have the parent with the children, and by no means am I calling loan officers children right now. But that's what it reminds me of. It reminds me of that we're building with Flagstar and with, Benchmark Warehouse Line. We're building that's our sturdy foundation. And so when when an LO comes and looks at us and says, so, I'm being recruited by XYZ company, I sit back and I talk about our relationships. I talk about our relation, not just between myself and the loan officer, but I talk about our relationships with our takeout investors. and bring up situations that, we've been able to overcome and grow from, that you wouldn't be able to overcome and grow from some of those investors that we talked about, that everything is just run by technology. So it becomes something that foundation becomes very relationship driven and oriented. And, it must be working, because Pinnacle Home Loans has loan officers that have been a part of the core group for 5 years. We haven't really lost anyone that we started with. And we're, retention and growth is a tricky thing right now, because one, not too many people are looking to leave where they are.
Right.
And two, do you really want that right now based on capacity, right? So that's kind of why I second that. But the conversation is the same. It's relationship driven, because we look for that authentic experience, and that is based off of relationship. So it's at its very core for the value prop that Pinnacle has, which is high tech, high touch, high trust, with you in mind. And so we speak that with our investors, with our our business partners, with our referral partners, with our clients.
Yeah, and selfishly, I asked the question not because of, I think, the role that we play, but I know in talking to you in past conversations how you view it. And I'm not sure that there's enough people in this industry that view the value of the partnership and the relationship the way you do.
Yeah.
And I know your retention, right? We've talked about this when I saw you last time, in regards to the longevity and the tenure that you have as you're growing this out with the core nucleus of people, right? I think that it's such a valuable, and you're right. Like, I should have probably just said retention, right? That's the big thing. Like, recruiting, people look at and they do, but it's really, once they come on board, how can you provide the atmosphere where they can be successful and grow? And it's more about that retention than it really is about recruiting, right? So I selfishly ask that because I want people to hear your answer, because I think more people need to view it from the lens that you view it.
Yeah, I appreciate it. And I kind of do too. And not because it's my view, but because I think it would create, a little bit of a different environment in
Agree.
our industry.
Totally agree.
Yeah.
Well, Paul, we've taken up a lot of your time. I certainly appreciate you carving out the time today. And look, you know how I think we feel about Pinnacle and you and the partnership. So certainly appreciate you jumping on and sharing some thoughts, not only about your interactions with Flagstar, but about, kind of the industry in general.
Yeah, thank you so much. It was such a pleasure to catch up with you,
Yeah,
and boast how amazing your company is. And, I really enjoyed it, and I look forward to our next interaction.
absolutely, Paul. Appreciate it, man. Thanks for doing this.
Thanks.